Hello friends, welcome to Learner's Planet. Friends, this is our fourth session for percentage. In the previous sessions, we have discussed the basic calculations of percentage and application of percentage in mensuration, that is area and volume cases. Okay, we have considered the cases of circle, rectangle, volume, sphere. Okay, so I would suggest you do attend the previous sessions before attending this particular session. Okay, as some of the concepts will be directly using from that particular session. Okay, so let's begin this session. Now, as we have already discussed the mensuration percentage cases in the previous session, the same logic will be applying on these sort of problems. Okay, here the tax on a commodity is diminished by 15% and its consumption is increased by 10%. What is the effect on revenue derived from it? Now friends, here this term revenue is dependent on tax and consumption. Okay, so let's tax into consumption is revenue, that is amount of tax into its consumption is revenue. Is revenue. Now suppose the amount of tax is 10, its consumption is 10, that means the revenue is 100. Now tax is diminished by 15%, that means the new tax is 8.5. Okay, and the consumption is increased by 10%, that means the new consumption is 11. Now we have to see the net impact. 11 into 85, it is 93.5. So what's the net increase? I'm sorry, there is a decrease, it is 6.5%. Okay, if tax is decreased by 15% and consumption is increased by 10%, then the net effect on revenue is 6.5%, and that is a downfall. Okay, so there is a downfall in the revenue. I hope you are getting my point. Now let's see this question. The marketing manager of a company proposed a scheme to increase the revenue of XYZ Limited. He proposed the price per unit of toys should be decreased by 20%. As a result, the number of units sold are increased by 25%. Was the proposal wise? Okay, what favorable or unfavorable changes will be derived? Friends, here in this case, we are dealing with two variables, that is number of units and their price. Okay. So price into number is equal to revenue. Okay. Now let's assume the price per unit is 10 and the number of units is also 10. So the total revenue generated is 100. Okay. Now he proposed the price per unit should be decreased by 20%. That means the new price is 8. And the number of units are increased by 25%. That means the new number of units is 12.5. So it's further 100. That means there are no changes in the revenue. Okay. Initially it was 100, and after this scheme, still the revenue is 100. So there is no change. So was the proposal wise? What we can say that the proposal is actually not wise, since we are not gaining anything, but to implement a scheme, it takes lots of efforts. So there is no benefit out of it. Okay, I hope you are clear. Now, in this case, the price of a TV set is decreased by 25%, as a result of which the sales increased by 20%. What is the net effect on revenue? Similarly, there are two variables, price and number of units. So price into number of units is equal to revenue. Let both of them be 10. So 10 into 10, the initial revenue is 100. Now price is decreased by 25%. That means the new price is 7.5 and the sales is increased by 20%. That means the new number of units is 12. Okay, now what 12 into 7.5? It's around 9. That means it must be around 90. So it's 10. Okay, that is 10 downfall over 100. That means it's a 10% downfall in the revenue. Okay. Which is none of this over here. I hope you are clear. Just identify the variables, identify the formula for calculating the revenue, and take the base value as 10 and calculate. It's as simple as that. Now, the price of tea being increased by 20%, a man reduces his consumption by 20%. Okay, so further there are two variables, the price and the consumption. Let's take the consumption in kilograms. Okay, so that means price per kilogram into its consumption in kilogram is equal to total budget of the month. Okay, or we can say total expenses on that particular commodity. Okay, now let the price be 10 and we are consuming 10 kilograms a month. That means the budget or the expenses on tea is 100 rupees a month. Now price is increased by 20%, so it's a 12, and consumption is decreased by 20%, so it's 8. So the new expenses are 96. So there is a 4% downfall in expenses. Okay, so by how much percent will his expenses on tea will be decreased? It's by 4%. Okay friends, I hope you are clear. Now in this question, entry fee in an exhibition was ₹1. Later this was reduced by 25%, which increased the sales by 20%. We have to find out the percentage increase in the number of visitors. Further, there are two variables, that is the entry fee and number of visitors. Okay, so fee into number of visitors is equal to total sales. Okay, now let's the initial fee is 10 rupees. Instead of ₹1, we will assume it to be 10. Since we are calculating the percentage change, it doesn't matter, we take it 1 or 10. So let's take it as 10, and number of visitors are 10. That means the sales is 100. Now the fee is being reduced by 25%. So the new fee is 7.5. We have to find out the number of visitors, and the sales is increased by 20%. So the new sales is 120. So X will be 120 by 7.5. So it's 16. Okay, so initially the number of visitors were 10, now they are 16. So there is a 60% increase in number of visitors. I hope you are clear. The most important part over here is to find out this relationship. Okay, that is fee into number of visitors is equal to total amount received, that is revenue, or that is sales. Okay, let's take the new one. See this question. If the price of petrol is increased by 25%, by how much percent a car owner must reduce his consumption to maintain the same budget? Friends, there are various methods to solve this particular problem. Okay, first of all, you can directly use a formula, which usually I do not recommend. Still, I would just write over here, it's R into 100 over 100 plus R percent. Okay, here R is the rate of increase. If it is decreasing, then it will be minus over here. So you can directly use the formula and get the answer. But what I would recommend you to just go by logic. Okay, now just think, if price of anything is doubled, then to maintain your expenditure you have to consume the same commodity to half. Okay, if the price is 3 times, then you need to reduce the consumption by to 1/3. Okay, so your budget is not affected. So In this case, the price of petrol is increased by 25%. Okay, this percentage I'm just going to convert to it corresponding fraction. Okay, so if price of petrol is increased by 25%, that means the new price is being 125% of the original price, isn't it? Now what 125% is? 125% is, it's 5 by 4, isn't it? We have already discussed in our percentage to fraction conversion session that 125% is 5 by 4. Even you can calculate it. It is 125 by 100. So it's 5 by 4. But you must remember it. Okay. Now, if price is getting 5 by 4, then to maintain the budget, you need to reduce, you need to make the consumption 4 by 5. Okay. So 4 by 5 is what? 80%. Okay, so the new consumption is 80%. That means you have to reduce the consumption by 20%. If you go by logic, there is no requirement of paperwork at all. Okay, I would just revise once more. Okay, so if price is doubled, consumption must be half. If price is tripled, then the consumption must be 1/3. If price is 4 times, then the consumption should be 1 by 4. So we are just playing with the fractions. So in this case, the price is 5 by 4. So the consumption should be 4 by 5. 4 by 5 is 80%. So the consumption should be 80% of the previous consumption. That means 20% decrease from the previous consumption. I hope you are getting my point. Now similarly in this problem, the price of wheat falls by 20%. By what percentage a person can increase the consumption of wheat so that his overall budget does not change? Friends, the price is falling by 20%. That means the new price is 80% of the original price, or we can say it is 4/5 of the original price. Okay. So if the price is 4/5, then the consumption can be done 5 by 4. Okay, that is reverse of 4 by 5. So consumption can be done 5 by 4, which is 1 by 4 extra from 1. Okay. Or we can say it is 125%. So how much consumption can be increased? It is 25%. Okay. So precisely 25% consumption can be increased if at all we wish to maintain the budget. Okay. I hope you are getting my point. And otherwise you can use the formula, that is 20 into 100 over 120, by which also you'll be getting the answer. I'm sorry, 20 into 100 by 80, since the price is getting down. Okay. Okay. Now let's see this question. If the price of sugar rises from rupees 6 to rupees 7.5, that means 1.5 rupees per kilogram, the price is increasing. 1.5 is 25% of 6. That means we can say 25% of the price is increasing. So that the new pricing is 125% of the original price. So 125% is further 5 by 4. So if we wish to maintain the expenditure, we need to make the consumption 4 by 5. Now 4 by 5 is what? 80. So we need to make the consumption 80% of the original. That means we have to reduce the consumption by 20%. Okay. Now let's see this question. If the price of sugar is increased by 30%, find the percentage decrease in the expenditure on the sugar. A man who wants to buy, who wants only 10% increase in the expenditure on sugar for his monthly consumption. Friends, further there are two variables, price and quantity. Okay, so the price is 10 rupees per kilogram and we are buying 10 kilogram per month. So the monthly expenditure is 100. Okay, now price is increased by 30%. That means the new price is 13. We have to find out the consumption, and we want the increase of 10%. That means the new budget is 110 rupees. Okay, so X is equal to 110 by 13. We'll be getting the new consumption out of it. It will be something around I will just calculate the approximate value over here. Since the denominator is 13, we can even choose from the options which is having 13 as the denominator. So here we see around this. Okay, but none of this is also there. So just calculate the approximate value. Okay, so it will be something around 13 8s are 104. We are left with 6. So it's around 8.5 kilograms. Okay, so initially it was 10, now it is 8.5. So precisely there is a around 15% decrease in consumption. Okay, and having denominator 13 and around 15 as the value, this must be the correct option. Okay, I hope you are clear. So we can say if price is increased by 30% and we wish to only a 10% increase in the expenditure, we should reduce the consumption by 5 by 3%. 5 by 13%, I'm sorry. Okay, let's do the next question. Now in this question, the price of sugar increases by 32%. A family reduces its consumption so that the expenditure of the sugar is up by 10% only. Okay, so the previous consumption, that is the original consumption, was 10 kilogram. We need to find out the new consumption. Okay, once again, price, let's assume it to be 10, and the quantity respective what is given to us, I'm just taking as 10. So the total monthly budget is 100 rupees. Okay, now price is increasing by 32%. That means the new price is 13.2. We have to find out the new consumption, and the new budget is 110. Okay, so X is equal to, that is the new consumption is 110 by 13.2. Okay, so the new consumption is 25 by 3. Okay, since the consumption over here is 10 kilogram, even we have assumed to be 10 kilogram, so the new consumption is 25 by 3. We can directly look in the option, that is 1 by 3 kilogram. I hope you are clear. Further, in this question, price into consumption in kilogram is the total expenditure. So let's both of them to be 10. So initial expenditure is 100. Now price is increased by 20%. That means the new price is 12 rupees per kilogram. And the family is decreasing its consumption by 25%. That means the new consumption is 7.5 kilogram. Okay, so 12 into 7.5 is the new budget. Okay, that must be rupees 90. Okay, so initially the budget was 100, now the budget is 90. That means there is a 10% downfall on the budget, or you can say on the expenditure on rice. Okay, so this will be the correct choice. Now let's see this problem. Prices register an increase of 10% on food grains and 15% on other items of expenditure. If the ratio of an employee's expenditure on food grains and other items is 2:5, by how much should his salary be increased in order that he may maintain the same level of consumption as before? His present salary is 2590. Friends, we have to find out his new salary. Okay, so initially the expenditure is 2x and 5x, that is 7x on these particular items. Okay, now total expenditure is 7x initially. Now the prices of food grains are increasing by 10%. That means the new price is 2 into 1.1x, that is 2.2x. Okay, and the new prices for the other items is 5 into 1.15, since it is a 15% increment. Okay, so that comes to 5.75x. So in all, the new expenditure is 7.95x. Okay, so initially it was 7, now it is 7.95. Okay, so what is the increment? That is 0.95 over 7. So if 0.95 is increased over 7, then what will be the increment on 2590? That we have to find out. Okay, so you can make this calculation, and since there is none of these and some of the options are there in fractions, so you need to calculate it accurately. Okay, which you can do. I just calculated for you over here. It's 351.5, which is not there in the option, so it's none of these. Okay, I'm sure you are clear. Now friends, let's say this question. A's income is 25% more than B's income. Then B's income in terms of A's income is what? Friends, very simple question. Not even the paper is required to solve this problem. Further, we'll come to the concept that if my income is double of yours, then definitely your income is half of mine. Similarly, if my income is 3 times of yours, then your income will be 1/3 of mine. Or maybe if my income is 4 times that of you, then your income is 1/4 of mine. Similarly, A's income is 25% more than B's income. That means A's income is 125% of B, isn't it? Now what 125% is? It's 5/4. Okay. So if A's income is 5/4 of B, that means B's income is 4/5 of A, isn't it? So B's income is 4/5 of A, that means B's income is 80% of A, that means B's income is 80% of A. That's it. Okay. I hope you are clear. You can practice on your own. Let's see the similar question. A's salary is 50% more than B. Then how much percent is B's salary less than A? Friends, do not use any sort of formula over here if the calculations are simple. Just do the this sort of problems mentally. If A's salary is 50% more than B, that means A's salary is 150% of B. Now what 150% is? It's 3/2. That means A's salary is 3/2 of B. Then B's salary will be 2/3 of A, isn't it? That means it is 1/3 less than A, isn't it? And what is 1/3? It is 33 1/3%. Isn't it very simple? Okay, you must be knowing the fraction percentage conversion. That's it. Now similarly, if A's height is 40% less than that of B, that means A's height is 60% of B, that means A's height is 3/5 of B. 60% is 3/5. Then we have to find out B's height in terms of, that is how much percent B's height is more than that of A. That means B is equal to 5/3 of A. Now what 5/3 is? It's, that means extra is 2/3 and 2/3 is what? 66 2/3%. Isn't it? I'm sure you are clear. I just repeat it. If A's height is 40% less than that of B, that means A's height is 60% of B. And 60% is 3/5. That is A's height is 60% or 3/5 of B. Now we have to find out B's height in terms of the increased percent of B's height in terms of A. Okay, that means from this relation B is equal to 5/3 of A. Now how much 5/3 is more than 1? That is 100%. So 5/3 is 2/3 more than 1. Now what 2/3 is in terms of percentage? It is 66 2/3%. Okay. Now in this question, P is 6 times as large as Q. That means P by Q is equal to 6. Okay. So we have to find out the percentage that Q is less than P. That means Q is 1/6 of P. Now what 1/6 of P? It is around 16 2/3%. Okay. That means Q is 16 2/3% of P. That means it is 100 minus 16 2 by 3, that is 83 1 by 3% less than P, isn't it? Or in other words, we can say if Q is 1 by 6th of P, that means Q minus P is 5 by 6. Okay, so that the difference between Q and P is 5 by 6%, which is 5 by 6 into 100, that is 83 1 by 3%. Okay. Now let's say this question. A's salary is 40% of B's salary, which is 25% of C's salary. What percentage of C's salary is A's salary? Friends, 40% is what? 2 by 5. That means if we find the ratio of A is to B, it will be 2 is to 5. Then B's salary is 25% of C's salary. That means B is to C is 1 is to 4. Okay. So we have to find out the ratio of A is to B is to C, and finally we have to find out the ratio between C and A. Okay. So it's 2 is to 5 is to 20. Okay. 2 is to 5 is to 20. We are multiplying like this. This technique I have discussed in the chapter ratio and proportion. Now we have to find out the ratio of A is to C, which is 2 is to 20, which is 1 is to 10. Okay. So A's salary is 1 by 10th of C. Okay. So it's 10%. I hope you are clear. Now let's say this problem. 5% of income of A is equal to 15% of income of B. That means 5A is equal to 15B. That means A by B is equal to 3 by 1. Or we can say the ratio of A and B is 3 is to 1. Now 10% of income of B is equal to 20% of income of C. That means 10B is equal to 20C. That means B by C is equal to 20 by 10, that is 2 is to 1. Okay. So B is to C is 2 is to 1. Now let's find the combined ratio of A is to B is to C. This method, friends, we have discussed in the ratio proportion session. It's 6 is to multiplication of these two, 2 is to 1. Okay. Now if C's income is rupees 2000, we have to find out the total income of A, B and C. Now C's income is here, it's one part. Now one part is 2000 and the total income is 6, 7, 8 and 1, 9 part. If one part is 2000, 9 part will be 18,000. So the total income of A, B and C will be 18,000. I hope you are clear. A very simple application of percentage as well as ratio and proportion. Now let's say this problem. Peter earned 40% more money than Albert and Albert earned 20% less than Michael. So Peter earned more money than Michael. Peter earned more than Michael by. Okay. Now friends, Peter earned 40% more money than Albert. That means Peter is earning 140% of Albert. Now what is 140%? Friends, 40% is 2 by 5. So 140% is 100% plus 40%. So it's 1 plus 2 by 5, that is 7 by 5. Okay. Now Peter is earning 40% more than Albert. That means the ratio of Peter is to Albert is 7 is to 5. Okay. Now Albert earned 20% less than Michael. So Albert is earning 80% of Michael. That means Albert is 4 by 5 of Michael, isn't it? Albert earned 20% less than Michael. That means Albert is earning 80% of Michael. That means Albert is to Michael is 4 is to 5. Okay. So just write it over here. Albert is to Michael is 4 is to 5. Now we have to find out the combined ratio, and after that we have to find out the relationship between Peter and Michael. Okay. The same calculation as in the previous question. It's 28 is to 20 is to 25. Okay. Now Peter earned more than Michael by, Peter is earning 28, Michael is earning 25. So the difference is 3. Okay. And this difference is over 28. Okay. I'm sorry, Peter earned more than Michael by, that means the difference 3 is from 25. So from 25, if it is 3, then from 100, it will be 12%. Okay. I'm sure you are clear. It's 12%. Friends, actually your work starts from this. Okay. This calculation which I have shown you over here, this calculation can be done mentally. It's not at all required. I mean, no paperwork is required. Okay. Friends, I hope we have done so many questions in this session, and you must be practicing with me. We'll be doing some more questions, some more applications of percentage in the next session. Till then, do revise this particular session and the previous session of percentages. Okay. Bye-bye.